Hello and welcome to the Soul Sync podcast, where we ask the questions that matter. If you're new to the show, it's great to have you along, and if you're listening again, welcome back to the Soul Sync community. Now, brace yourselves for an extraordinary episode of the Soul Sync as we welcome a true luminary in the world of mediumship, the one and only Paul Jacobs. With international acclaim and a resume that reads like a guide to the spirit world, Paul is not just an expert on the soul's journey, he's a beacon of wisdom in a world seeking understanding. Paul strives to guide others to develop the power of their own spirit and live a more fulfilling life. A leading medium on the global stage, Paul Jacobs is not just someone you listen to, he's someone you experience. Thousands flock to his demonstrations and hundreds eagerly enroll in his courses all across the globe, making him a foremost teacher of mediumship. His profound connection with the spirit world goes beyond the stage, offering us a captivating behind-the-scenes look at his extraordinary visits to the realm beyond, and what these experiences teach us about life here and beyond the veil. In a world where the mystical meets the tangible, Paul's dedication to serving the spirit world is unparalleled. His journey as a spiritualist began in 1983, and from that moment there was no turning back. Picture this, his first spiritualist church visit, a feeling of coming home and the realisation that he had found something profound. Little did he know that the lady leading the service was none other than his great aunt Lavinia, a medium who would become a catalyst for Paul's own mediumistic journey. Under the mentorship of the legendary Gordon Higginson, one of the finest mediums of the 20th century, Paul not only recognised but unfolded his latent mediumistic gifts. His public debut in 1990 marked the beginning of a remarkable journey, combining demonstrations with Gordon and Simon James, both under Gordon's guidance. Fast forward to 1993, a pivotal year for Paul. He became a tutor at the prestigious Arthur Findlay College, a testament to his expertise and dedication. As Gordon passed to the world of spirit, Paul took over as president of the Longton Church, elevating his commitment to the spiritual realm. This was also the year he embraced his destiny as a professional medium, leaving his business to fully embrace the calling. So join us as we unravel the layers of Paul Jacobs' extraordinary life, exploring the teachings, experiences and wisdom that have made him a leading figure in the world of mediumship. Now, I love this conversation. I learned so much and I'm really excited for you to listen to. I hope you enjoy. Paul, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Soul Sync podcast.
My pleasure, Jason. I love the opportunity to reach new people, particularly. I've always said that ever since the beginning of my journey. I don't care if I have to stand on a street corner. I like to get the message and the understanding across of the eternal spirit, but also the individuality of the spirit that's there and created by our soul and its soul's journey in this physical world.
So this is going to be an action-packed hour because, Paul, there is so much that I could ask you about, what to unpack. I think very briefly we'll touch on your background, but there's so much to your background. We could spend the whole hour talking about that, and I want to try and get the most value that we can for people listening to that. So give us a bit of a flavour into people that haven't come across you before.
Okay, I'm someone who's very much feet on the ground, down to earth approach. Everything has to be common sense and logic because maybe some of your listeners might think, we're crazy, we've got our head in the clouds, we're away with all fantasy, because that was the approach I came into this. And, we see things on TV and we see things on the internet to do with psychic mediums advertised, and so these psychic channels, and really it's miseducation and what we're all about. I've even argued with colleagues, stop calling yourself a psychic medium, because they're part of each other, but they're two separate things. So working psychically, my soul becomes aware of your soul and its journey, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. On a mediumistic level, it's then my soul and becoming aware and communicating with a discarnate soul who's left this physical body behind. And I was searching for two reasons as a young man in my life. Very much before anything negative happened in my life, I always questioned, what's the meaning of life? What's the purpose? If all there is this physical life and then we die and there's nothing else, what's the purpose of our existence? Then, through being an entrepreneur, actually, and a businessman, I had quite a lot of material success, but inside I still felt empty. Thought there's something missing. There's got to be more to just having success materially, of having a nice car, a big house, the money to buy your holidays. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed and appreciated those things. I know what it's like not to have them too. So I thought there's got to be more. And maybe I suppose through a difficult period where I lost nearly everything in my life, I was really probably at the lowest point I could possibly be. I was on the floor nearly enough. And in a way, even though I didn't believe in God anymore because I was against religion and the religion I was brought up into, and I want nothing to do with my understanding of God that I'd been taught during my childhood and early youth years. But in a way, I used to go to bed on a night and I'd really actually be crying out to God from the depths of my being, from the depths of my soul, help. I need answers. This life has got to have more meaning than I have. My life's got to have more purpose. And I started having these weird and strange experiences, which I couldn't understand. I would have these objective experiences of these like lights and comets shooting across my room and voices calling and shouting out to me. And I thought, I must be going crazy. Is this place I'm living in haunted? I'd get up in the middle of the night and book myself into a hotel because I was scared to death by it. Because the problem is when we have mediumistic experiences we don't understand, our mind jumps to something negative. Particularly when we've got maybe these negative teachings from some Orthodox religions about the devil and evil, also from all the things we've watched from the movies and TV shows, whatever. So it sent me on a search to find out what these experiences were, which led me to the spiritualist church. And after about 6 weeks, I thought, this isn't for me. It's a load of rubbish what they're all saying. So a few weeks later, a great aunt of mine who turned out to be a medium, who knew I'd started going to the church, said to me, I'm going to Longton Church in Stoke-on-Trent. Would you like to come with me? And I said, yeah, why not? And she says, it's Gordon Higginson's church, which meant nothing to me, who turns out to be, in the last 100 years, the finest medium there possibly was. And she introduced me to him. And as soon as he shook my hand, again, I heard these voices. You're going to become friends. And that's what happened. And he took me on this journey. And after a few weeks, though, after going to his church, he said to me, Paul, how are you finding our church? I said, I'm not sure it's for me. And he says, and why is that, young man? And I said, well, I've come looking to find and understand if there is a reality. There's this either this supreme person or this supreme power and intelligence behind creation, whether it's God or some other label, I don't know. And that evening, he took the service and he spoke all about God. And that touched my soul. And that set me on my own spiritual journey and search. And through him, then I went through my own psychic awareness and also mediumistic potentials and development. So, over the years, the two subjects, have got a bad reputation generally. And I want to educate people. Like the psychic is so important and helpful and useful, particularly young people. Because most of them don't have people in the spirit world, they're not thinking about death yet and what's afterwards. But it's that level that we can help people, and everybody can be psychic. because psychic comes from the Greek word soul. So we've all got a soul. So with the right aptitude, the right training, and the right type of mind, we can all develop that to a good level. But it's not just developing it to use for other people. If we can develop that awareness um, within our own soul, we can help ourselves in our own everyday lives. If we could just go within our own soul, the soul is the vehicle of the higher mind, which survives physical death. So that's another level of consciousness. The power of the spirit, that divine essence of life, and the emotion. And if we can open our awareness to those, develop that power of the spirit within, all the answers we need to guide and direct us are there within our own soul. But also, if we can heighten and become aware of that power, then the power of the universe, you understand, that power that's behind all life and creation can move and direct us in our own everyday lives. I can remember driving in the car with Gordon Higginson, and I was speaking to him and telling him how I spoke with I slept with an axe under my bed. And he says, "What on earth do you sleep with an axe under your bed for?" I said, "Well, my home was burgled and I'm scared of it happening again, especially if I'm asleep at night." And he says, "You are a silly young man," he said. "Nothing untoward will ever happen to you." I thought, fantastic, great. Cancel my life insurances, take out extra pension. And, and then he added to me, "And also, you are so well protected in your car." And I hadn't told him that I'd got this fear of dying in a car accident because my father died in a car accident as a young man. My grandmother died in a car accident. I had two very close friends die in car accidents. And I thought, wow, fantastic if that's real and true. So I sat at home that evening and I sent my thoughts out to the consciousness, the greater consciousness, to God, and said, why me? Why am I so well protected? Why nothing untoward will happen to me? Because I'm no more important and special than anybody else. So why not everybody? And the answer I got back was, we try to do the same for everybody, but we are limited by you, by being able to respond to our power and our influence. And I thought, wow, fantastic. So, we've all got the soul, we're all of this divine power of life and creation. So this power can do this for all of us. Listen to those feelings, that higher mind within your soul, rather than this physical consciousness. Listen to your feelings. Listen to that small, still, silent voice that's within. Allow this power to move you the right place, the right time, the right people. Everybody's experienced it to one little degree or another. But if we can open that awareness within the soul, then we can have that greater influence from this greater consciousness and intelligence.
What do you think are the biggest things that sort of prevent people from going with him? Because we've all obviously all got this built within us. We've all got this ability to tune in. But from your experience, what are the barriers people come up against? Not just when they're first becoming aware, but even someone like myself. I'm fully aware of it, but what would you tend to find from students that you teach? What barriers are they coming up against in terms of reaching within?
Basically, this physical consciousness gets in the way, and they argue with their physical consciousness and that higher consciousness within their soul. And again, when they're trying to do this awareness from within their own soul, they're still trying to do it with this conscious mind. Yeah, I say to my students, pretend you've got two brains. You've got a brain in your head, which you communicate with the physical consciousness. I says, and then pretend you've got another brain in your stomach, within your soul, which you communicate with your own higher mind, your feelings, and that power of the divine that we're a part of that can reach out into like the cosmos, the consciousness. And if we could then listen to that, but then we doubt and we argue, oh, is it my own feelings? Is it my own thoughts? Is it my own imagination? Is that just what I'm desiring? But if I really listen, let me give you a little example. I was giving a reading to a young man in the Italian part of Switzerland, and I was telling him how he would be starting a new job in a small office, but moving and a new home in the French part of Switzerland. And he said, yes, that's correct. So I said, you're making a big mistake. He said, oh, please don't say that. My father has set all this up for me. I said, that's why it's a mistake. It's what your father wants for you, not what your soul needs to do. I said, and then from the color, because this living energy we are vibrates at color, and it vibrates emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically in all this color, in every thought, word, action, and deed we've manifest. And I believe there's a color there from that energy and that power within the soul that tells us the quality of your soul. And I was aware of this colour of quality of his soul. And I said, you should be going into psychology or social welfare. And he said to me, I've often thought or felt that's what I would like to do. So we've got two choices now. Suffocate in a small office, business office that your father wants and be unhappy, or do what your soul needs to do and feel fulfilled and happy.
And what
Simple as.
was his reaction at the end of that? Did he
Well,
totally resonate with that, Paul?
yes, but whether he'd have the courage to live what he wants to live is another matter, or go against what his father wants. And to be honest, in my experience, young people I've come across, not just through my work, but in life in generally, you know, if you look at a lot of the young people today, I actually believe each generation there's this heightened awareness, but they don't understand it. Religion's not answering it. They're searching for something behind the physical, but they've got no understanding of it or know where to go. And the younger generations today don't want to fit into the box standard um, expectations of what our families want, society want, religious leaders want, our governments want. They've got this individuality they need to express in various ways. They don't all want to, leave school, get a mundane job to earn enough money to find a place to live, find a partner, get married, have the children, which is fine if that's what people want, and that's great and fulfills their soul. But there's a lot of young people wanting to search and find something. Funny conversation I had with a little boy in my family who I love to pieces. He's only 5 years old, and I was saying to him, I said, when you grow up and you become a young man, what would you like to do in your life? He says, I'm not sure yet, Uncle Paul. He says, I've not found my talent yet. And then he looked at me and he says, maybe I'll do what you do. He says, but I don't quite understand it. But again, but even at 5, innocently, he's looking to find what his talent is that will make him feel good. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And even if I go back to my own life when I was at school, I had two desires or feelings. One, I wanted to be a school teacher. There was only mathematics I was any good at. I left school with no qualifications, so I couldn't be
Mm.
school teacher. The other desire I had was to be on stage, but I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't act, whatever. And I had that desire to do those two things. But if you look now,
You're
that's what I
doing them, aren't you? It's
teach. I'm on stage, I work in theatres, doing what I do. So, in a way, again, was that my soul telling me that I will be performing in some way in front of audiences? Was that my soul then telling me that I would be teaching. Yeah. So if we could listen there, it's there for us all, but we've got to have the courage to live it and respond to it.
Do you believe, because when you explain this about you having this kind of feeling at a young age and then you going through your life, and I think one thing that really jumped at me in your book, which is very similar to me, is you had to have undeniable proof and evidence, and you went along that kind of, and I'm exactly the same. It wasn't until I went to a week at Arthur Findlay where I even, well, I went there with the sole intention of, do I want to know if the spirit world is real or not? Do you think that your life is already decided and you were meant to start your mediumship journey when you did? Or do you think it was you ignoring those signs where you could have started it sooner? Or do you think that's kind of sketched out that you was meant to start it when you did and it all fell into place at that time? Do you believe that, what's your thoughts on that?
This might be a little bit contradictory of myself. So I very much believe that quality to do what I'm doing. Okay, I don't like calling it a gift. Okay, it's an ability that's innate there within me. All right, um, and I do believe there's this quality that's there within our soul that we need to express on this earthly journey. Whether we do or not is another matter. Yeah. So the potential is there for us to fulfill that. But then I believe we do have free will. Yeah.
Mhm.
So also, so yes, I could have maybe come into it a little bit early, but I was quite young anyway. So, I was 25 when I came into this subject. But also, it's we've got to realize there's free will and destiny. I believe free will is that of the physical, destiny is that of the spirit. So if it is the destiny of your spirit to do a particular thing, not just mediumship, the opportunities and the signs will present themselves, but then you've got the free will to respond, whether you respond to them or not.
Mm.
So when I found this, I thought, Paul, why didn't you come into this earlier? It's fantastic. Why didn't you do something sooner? But also, I have to say, it has to be the right time in your life and also the right time for the spirits as well.
Mm.
Gordon Higginson used to tell quite a lot of young women who had the quality to do this. He used to say to them, go away, have your family and children, then come back. So
Okay.
there has to be a time, um, you know, um, and you'll find that it doesn't have to be negative experiences, but for often you'll hear a lot of mediums say, "Oh, there was always aware since they were a child." That doesn't have to be the case. It'll be there, but it'll be lying dormant deep within. And what quite often happens then, it can be through various circumstances. It can be something traumatic in your physical life, emotionally. It could be something through illness where you've got nowhere to turn but to the depths of your soul. And then it awakens and brings that quality or potential up to the
Mm.
surface. Yeah.
You've kind of led me really nicely on to another line of questioning that I have for you, Paul. How would you say one knows if they have a gift for mediumship? Because very few people that I've come across suddenly start having, well, you might tell me differently, start having these kind of experiences that you were having with all the lights, the colors, and the comics going around. How would you say that someone knows if they've got a gift for this type of work from all of your experience?
That's a tricky one. Okay. I simply say to people, if you're interested, you have that feeling to draw on, then do the journey. Do the journey of discovery. Do the journey with joy of that experience and let the journey unfold and where far and where it'll lead you to. Okay. So, I did the journey. I wasn't looking to be a medium. Even Gordon Higginson, after about 3, 4 years, said to me, I do not understand you at all. And I says, "Why?" He says, "You've got this mediumistic ability, you've shown it, you've given examples of it, and you're still not taking it seriously." And after he said that, I decided to, because I wouldn't believe I could do it until I heard it from his mouth, you see, because he was the master, you know. So I then decided, but I wasn't really, I was more on a spiritual journey to start with, not a mediumistic journey, even though I don't
Mhm.
have mediumistic experiences. I then came, I was in, I was working in business and I was doing this work at one side of it and I was having difficulty coping with both. And I kept sending my thoughts out to the consciousness, do I do this work full time or just at the side of my business? No answer at all. So I decided to book a reading with a medium who I respected, and he gave me the normal evidential contact. And
Glyn
then
Edwards.
that's correct. Yes, Glenn Edwards. That's right. And yeah, he was one of the finest mediums of his day as well. Often worked with Gordon Higginson. And so he gave me this contact, and it was coming to the end. And I thought, I'm not getting what I'm wanting yet. I understand all the evidence, but where's the message about shall I be a full time medium? And just before he finished, he said to me, Paul, I'm just being told it's your choice whether you want to be a full time medium or not. And I thought, oh no, that's not what I want to hear.
That's not the answer you wanted to hear, Paul. No.
But then he added, but they're saying if you decide to do the journey of mediumship as your life and full time, they will make sure there's always enough to provide for your needs.
That was the answer you really needed, though, wasn't it? Because that was the deep rooted answer.
And within 2 weeks, I was then offered 6 weeks' work at the Arthur Findlay College. I was offered my first week's work abroad in Finland, and it just then opened up totally, and I've never needed since.
It was a big decision to, I know that running my own business. And don't get me wrong, I've thought about that at times where I feel my soul pulling me and say, one day I want to do this. But it's a massive decision, especially when you go from running a business to.
Right? But it's not for everybody to do full time.
Mm,
If it's only part time, that's okay. If that's what, it depends what else your soul needs in your life. You know,
mm.
okay, I'm single. I don't have children. I don't have responsibilities. So I've got the freedom to, live this life without responsibilities of other people. Traveling all over the world, traveling one end of the country to another. I couldn't do that if I still needed all those other things. That's the normal
Mm.
of people's lives. But also, what I want to say is, to be honest with you, we don't want everybody to become mediums. God help us, to be honest. All right. And actually, if everybody takes the journey, that inward journey of the understanding what we spoke about and awareness in their own soul, we can actually make all mediums redundant. Yeah. But
Mm.
what we're looking for, we want people who can heighten their power, their awareness, their sensitivity, and that quality and abilities they have in many areas of life. So then we can, whether it's in our governments as politicians, whether it's in our hospitals, whether it's in our entertainment businesses, whether it's in our schools, any walk of life, even as a businessman, um, that we use that spiritual quality and
Mm.
expression in whatever facet of life that we want to manifest our qualities and talents and abilities with. Wow, what a difference we could make to this world.
I
Eh?
agree. When you go through your day to day life, you are obviously extremely sensitive as a person to be able to do what you do. How do you find going through day to day life? Do you find sometimes you get very overwhelmed by like, noises, colors, airports? You're always traveling. How do you cope with that?
I have very difficulties and great difficulties with noise. Um, that's a big one for me. If I go to a pub or a restaurant and there's a big noisy party next door, I have to move. Or if I'm in a noisy pub, I try and find the quietest place. I find even if say if you and me were having a conversation and other people were with us and they were having a quiet conversation next to us, I can't focus. It's
It's so funny you say it. The reason I was asking the question is because I have the problem with noise. I'm really sensitive to noise and being in any environment where the pitch is too high, or you know when they sit you on those tables in the restaurant and it's the 2 2 2 2 2. That just does not work for me.
That's right. But also what we have to watch of, and this is why, now I've got a discipline in a way, but I have to sort of like, um, I don't know what word to put it is. I have to control it to a degree. That only comes through experience. I remember I was living in for a short period in Holland, and I was walking back from a restaurant. I'd been out on my own, and as I was walking from the restaurant to my apartment, I was becoming more and more and more depressed. And I thought, Paul, what's going on with you? You've got nothing to be depressed about. And as I was walking back, I started questioning within myself, why am I feeling this depression? And then all of a sudden, thoughts of a friend of mine in Germany came into mind. So I rang and I said, "Can I ask you something?" Yeah, Joe. And he says, "Yeah." And I says, "Are you depressed at the moment?" He says, "Paul, you won't believe how deep I'm in a depression just at the moment." So I was
Wow.
in another country and I could still feel and experience his depression.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because there's no restrictions and barriers to the mind, the emotion, and the power. It can reach around the world. It can reach out to the universe. Yeah,
Mm.
there's no physical time, space, physical thing. There's no barriers, at all.
I want to ask you another question as well. I've got lots of these queued up, Paul, but would you say that you obviously learn all the time. You never stop learning in this work, and that's one thing that I've really taken. Do you get kind of new spirit experiences often, or almost like kind of, how would I describe it? Like a new feature? Do you sometimes go, oh, hang on a minute, this is new. I've never had this before.
Yes, still
Um,
happens. Yeah.
what's been your most recent kind of maybe I'd describe them as upgrades?
It's just not so much new experiences. It's like when I'm communicating with the spirit, maybe receiving a type of evidence I've never received before, or um, receiving it in a way I've never had before. I had one the other day. I was doing a public demonstration, and I went to this lady with her mother, and speaking about how her and her mother loved to constantly, regularly play Monopoly, which a lot of people do. And I said, but as I'm watching the board, I keep seeing the counter come past go. So I know at the moment you question whether you're going to receive the money for the house that's being sold. And she says, yes, that's correct. She says, we're questioning whether we will get it or not. And then I says, but all of a sudden, the counter has gone around the board again and it stopped at Park Lane. So your mother must have had a connection to Park Lane. And she says, that's where we lived, Park Lane. So it doesn't, it's amazing how they can get this information across to you. I think my strongest experiences, which was in my early years, I've actually, in a way, the spirit will took me through the process of actually what it was like to die,
Mhm.
how we transfer from this world into those other realms of consciousness beyond the physical, which was very similar to like a near-death experience. And I met my own people there, okay, and they gave me experiences that were unbelievable that I didn't want to come back.
This was
I
during a meditation.
Yeah. Okay. But I
Wow.
wasn't, I wasn't watching it. I was actually there because when I was speaking to Gordon Higginson about the experience, he said, I need to ask you one question. Were you watching it or were you experiencing it? And I said, "I'm experiencing it." And he said, because this was in my early years of development, and he said, I'm going to have to keep my eye on you, young man. but also after that, they moved me and took me into other aspects of consciousness beyond the physical, which were awful, and I couldn't wait to get back. Didn't want to stay there. So
Could you tell us about those? Do we have time to kind of delve into those subjects a little bit?
certainly. Okay. So what we've got to realize, once we discard this physical body, okay, we still have shape and form with the etheric body, which is a replica of the physical body. But without the disease and ailments, yeah, because we've got no physical. And we end up in a place what we call the etheric world, which is a replica of this world. Okay. So whatever exists in this world exists in that world. So I don't believe, I hear people are into all spiritual stuff and all the weird and wonderful. Oh, they're so spiritual, they're going to end up at level 7, which is a load of rubbish, you know. So if you look at the etheric world, all right, it's like if we speak about heaven and hell, all right, but not as places. Heaven and hell is state of mind. The spirit world is also a world of mind. Yeah. So if your life has been rich in that what you've lived, expressed, and done in your life, okay, then you'll create a heaven. But if
Okay.
your life here in what you've lived and expressed has been barren and empty, then the etheric world and your conditioning of surroundings will then be dark, empty, and barren. Yeah. So my idea of heaven might not be your ideal of heaven. You see. So
Right.
anyway, so even though we talk about the etheric level as one level, there's many levels of consciousness and expression within the etheric world. Yeah.
Hmm.
So this is, but you also, so if we speak about, say, the people whose life has been empty, barren, and dark, they're not condemned to eternity for that. All right. Nobody's put them there. No St. Peter to gate judging them and sending them there.
Hmm.
Created that purely by our own expression. But when their minds awaken to the darkness and emptiness and barrenness their lives be, their conditioning and surroundings then will change gradually
Mm.
till they can maybe then move and create a state of being and a place of surroundings that becomes heaven. You understand that? Yeah?
That makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense. When it comes, I've got another question now. And I'm fully aware that I could go down a million rabbit holes here, but I'm going to ask questions that are jumping into my mind, Paul, in the hope that other people are thinking, "Come on, Jason, ask Paul Jacobs this." So, obviously, my understanding is our souls have previous incarnations on the planet, or if they're an older soul or whatever. How does a soul go from living in this kind of different frequency or realm? How does it connect to the past lives or the future lives? Can we go into just a little bit more about the
Yeah.
soul incarnation and your view and your sort of thoughts and beliefs on that?
Well, I normally do a 2-hour talk on this. All right. So first of all, let me say, because I do belong to the Spiritualist National Union, which is a recognised religion. All right. We are only supposed to teach that we can give evidences of. Okay.
Hmm.
So I do not teach reincarnation as a fact. Okay.
Yes.
Even though I believe in reincarnation, okay, but I love speaking about the subject, and I think we should, in a way, we should discuss, we should research the subject, and see if we can get factual
Yes.
evidence of it. So I love it. Also what we've got to remember with spiritual things, and because we live in a physical world of consciousness where everything's by measurement, we want one divine answer for everything spiritual, and that's not possible.
Mm.
And I think there's more than one answer to everything. Okay, so I very much believe, yes, reincarnation does happen. I believe it's by choice, not that we have to. Okay.
Okay.
Um, I do believe there are certain souls that are born here, um, which are what we class as real old souls. You know, maybe like some of your great prophets from the past, uh, Gordon Higginson. Um, his birth was predicted. His soul coming to the earth was predicted when his mother was 14 years of age.
Wow.
Yeah, and the medium at the time predicted that Gordon Higginson's mother, who was 14 at the time, would have a son called Gordon Higginson, and together they would give over 100 years service to the spirit world, and they did. Okay,
Wow.
so that's coming with a purpose to be in, all right. But then I sometimes wonder whether what people class as a reincarnation, is it really what we call one soul that's experienced the earth, gone back to the spirit world, and then reincarnated totally? Okay.
Hmm.
Because what made me question was because I heard people speaking on about old souls, what you've just mentioned, new souls, group souls. So I thought, well, where do all the new souls come from? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, if you look, since human beings have existed, um, the population has multiplied. So where are all the souls coming from? Yeah, um, to give life to that, those physical bodies. So I thought about it. Now I can't prove this. Some people might think I'm even crazy with the thought. Okay,
We don't think you're crazy on the soul sync, Paul. I promise you.
all right. So if you take a soul, okay, and just like the physical body begins with one cell, yeah, that cell divides, splits into two,
Mhm.
then splits again, multiplying. And I wonder if that's what happens with some of the souls in the spirit. They are in the spirit world,
Mm.
yeah. So then that creates a new soul, but what it may have memories from its
Yes.
experiences from the soul that it's come from.
Yes, that does make sense.
Yeah?
Yes.
But then also so then as it's multiplied, then it may be then creating those group souls.
Mm. Well,
I'm
you
not.
might have feelings perhaps of affinities and closeness, and you can kind of remember parts, but because it comes from the same cluster.
That's right. I mean, if I look at the three people who had a big influence on my journey with this. Okay. Now, again, I don't know how much some of your listeners are into this aspect I'm going to speak about. We all speak about like these um, helpers, guides, who people look after us from the spirit world. Okay. And all those three people, we all had one of these. I call them my friends. I'm not particularly like the word on guides. We all had one that came from the same culture, and so the three people and myself, and their names was very similar. Like in a way, it wasn't a surname, but it was like a family name that connected all four of our helpers together. So, am I questioning then? So, with they, myself, and these three people, do we all originate from the same group soul?
Wow.
There's a possibility. I can't prove that as fact. But unless we question and these things and discuss them, we're not going to arrive to. Um,
No, we're not. And I think the discussion needs to be had. And I really appreciate you sharing your kind of beliefs and the way your mind's
what
processing all of this. It's so beyond massive. It's very hard at times to even try and process.
what I would like to get across, because we've spoken reincarnation, because I remember giving a consultation to this lady, and the son came, and he was wonderful communicator, and I was pleased the way what we could from the son and myself share with the mother. And at the end of it, she says to me, Paul, she says, was he really there? And I says, why do you doubt? Why do you question? Because I thought he gave so much. And she says, well, I've been to see other mediums and nobody's been able to give him to me. And she says, and I've asked them why. And they've said, because he's reincarnated. I was so angry. I, I said,
Mm,
I says, please, please, the mediums are totally out of order saying that to
yeah.
you. They don't know whether that's true. They're just making an excuse for why. So I want to say that in case there's people here who've physically lost people, and you know, if you think like that mother, she looks forward to the day she could have that reunion with her son. But those mediums had taken that away from her by saying he'd
Yeah.
reincarnated. So I wanted to clear that up with people. So please, I don't believe if reincarnation is true, which I believe in, nobody will reincarnate back to the physical world until those they've left behind have joined them and they've had that reunion.
Thank you, Paul. Just to ask about your kind of day to day, your self care routine. Meditation to one side, is there anything you do to make sure that you're always in the best energy? And what's your kind of self care routine look like as someone who's traveling all over the world, connecting with spirit people every day?
Um, I don't really have one, to be honest with you. My life's constantly this. There's hardly a day I'm not doing something with this.
Right. Okay.
I do need my quiet space. I need my own company because if you think, the work I do, you're giving all the time. And even when you're not working with people, people are not consciously taking from you.
Hmm.
You're giving it. So this is why I do need my isolation at times to be on my own space. And basically, also, it's important that I partake and share in this physical world with people outside this subject.
Yes. It can
Okay,
be all consuming, can't it?
I've got a little bar I like to go to. They're not interested. They know what I do, but they're not interested. Oh, you're back in town. We've seen you've just come back from Australia, and then we talk about the football, or we talk about the politics, or whatever. Just that normal everyday, because people come. I don't know. I don't like the word grounded and ungrounded, but you know, um, if they're not careful, they're no use to this physical world. They might as well be over there. Everything is also love and light,
Yeah.
We're physical beings. Our soul has come to the earth to experience all things. Yeah. So I enjoy, I enjoy a nice glass of wine. I enjoy a good meal. Um, I love a day where I can go to the spa, whatever. Just normal things in that every day of this physical world. And there's nothing wrong in enjoying the pleasures of this physical world. It's just making sure that you keep the balance right, okay, within those physical pleasures, but also you equally give just as much time to feeding the spiritual self and not just satisfying the physical. And if we can get that balance right, then that's good.
I'm really aware, Paul, that we are running out of time, but I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, which I think that are going to be really helpful,
Yeah,
hopefully,
we're there to
to
start.
listeners. So we can have people listening to this podcast of all different levels. People who have sort of just come across it are wondering about their purpose, and people who are more established into mediumship. What are your top tips for people trying to develop to become a medium?
Yeah. First of all, you need to spiritualize your psychic faculty. Okay. So, first of all, you need to do self awareness, which is a continuous project. I'm still doing it after 39 years. Okay. Because if you don't understand yourself, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and that what you physically manifested, how on earth am I going to understand your soul, not along somebody's soul in the other levels of consciousness?
Mhm.
Uh, then I know some people not keen on the word God. I don't have a problem. You've got to be able to find that reality of God, but that reality of God that's there within you, and awaken that power. but in a way, have a relationship with it. So I say to people, make God your best friend. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but then you see, if so, God's got to be in your mediumship. If it's, but the thing is, God can't be in your mediumship if God's not in your life.
Yes.
Okay. So then you will really, have a power and a oneness with that power that will really then help you truly fulfill the true potential and quality of that mediumistic ability. But it's like in my everyday life, I'm not walking around with a spiritual overcoat and my halo shining, but when I'm living my life, like even just speaking to you now, or whether I go to the restaurant tonight, whatever, I'm allowing my soul, my higher mind, and my feelings, in a way, um, experience that what I'm doing. I'm not just experienced by this physical consciousness. And in a way, I'm in an informal sense, not in a religious sense. In a way, I'm sharing with God what I'm doing, where I am in
Mm.
my life. It's part of me. And that doesn't mean I'm all saintly and a goody two shoes, please. So,
Hmm. I
um,
wouldn't believe that for a moment, Paul. And lastly, I want to ask about Gordon Higginson. Obviously, we could do a whole episode on him, but what is it that kind of comes back to you? What are the lessons that, still keep coming back to you even now? Or what essence of him would you like to leave kind of in the show today?
it was his power and his presence, not just his mediumistic ability. All right. And again, this about God being a reality in your life. Can I have time just to say a little story to get that
Go,
across?
go, go ahead. Yes, please do.
I was at his church and we were getting the church ready for the Harvest Festival, and we were putting all the produce out. And he was the one end of the room and I was the other. And I'd come down to this last bag of oranges. And, uh, and every time I put the last orange on the plate, they all fell off. And I was cursing and cussing under my breath. Now, he was the other end. He couldn't hear me cursing and cussing. And all of a sudden, I heard him say, Paul. And I turned round and he started walking to me. And he says, Paul, don't swear at them. They are seeds of God. Talk to them with love. And he came over, took the last orange off me and placed it, and they all stayed there perfectly. I know that's a silly story, but it's an example of his understanding and his relationship with that power of God that was within him. That was
Mm.
his reality. You could recognize, I could have my back to the entrance of a large room, and he would open that door and walk through, and I knew it was him. It got this presence. My mother, who is still very much a Catholic lady, she used to say to me, Paul, are you going to church today? And I'd say, yes. And she'd say, is Gordon Higginson going to be there? And I'd say, yes, but he's not taking the service. That's okay, I'll come. I said, why does he have to be there, Mum? She says, Paul, I only see him standing at the top of the stairs. It doesn't matter how ill I feel, how depressed I feel totally well again. It was
What a
that
beautiful
presence.
story. What a beautiful story. Um, I must say, I've on a closing note, I've read Paul's book. It is available on Amazon. Paul, Man of Spirit, written anyway, so I can't get my words out now, by Jennifer Gomes, and it's a really good book. So I do recommend that to people. Paul, if people want to find out more about you, what's your website? Where can they go to?
It's I'm trying to think what the name of it is.
I've put you on the spot now.
Yeah, I can't. I use my website so little. I can't even remember what it's called.
I'll put it in the show notes. Do not
Okay.
worry.
I think it's mediumpauljacobs.com.
Stick it
Mediumpauljacobs.com.
into Google, you'll find it. Paul, thank you so much for today. It's been the most wonderful conversation, and I'm sure everyone else has enjoyed it as much as I have.
We could speak every day for the week, for the full day, and hopefully you can see. I still, even though I've been doing this 39 years, I still get so excited and passionate about it. just amazing, you know.
There we go. That was the absolutely incredible Paul Jacobs. I know, I was absolutely blown away by that episode and that conversation. And I think I'll find myself probably at times going back into that and listening to it all over again. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. A big thank you for joining me on another enlightening episode of Soul Sync. For more spiritual insights, free meditation downloads, thoughts, my personal book recommendations, and my thoughts regarding certain spiritual titles, and of course the latest updates about Soul Sync, subscribe to our newsletter at jasonpaulmedium.com. Just head straight to the bottom of the page and sign up to stay connected with the soulful community we're building. Now, if you have suggestions for a future episode, or there's a guest you'd love to see featured, or you might have a story that you'd like to share with our wonderful audience, simply email me at hello@jasonpaulmedium.com. Your stories and ideas are the heartbeat of Soul Sync, and your input is invaluable in shaping the conversations I bring to you. Now, in the next episode of Soul Sync, it's just going to be you and I. I'm going to be talking to you all about the law of attraction. The law of attraction really was my first doorway into the world of spirituality, and I've been practicing it on and off for over 13 years. I'm going to share with you all of my hints and tips, and most importantly, what I feel stops people from manifesting the life that they truly want. You're going to hear about some of the real highs and real lows of my life in this episode as I give you some context behind my story. I'm Jason Paul, this is Soul Sync. Until next time, goodbye.